Hello, everyone, and welcome to Paula's Soapbox Live. I am so excited about the guest that I have tonight. I've followed her work for many years. Um, Only recently did I find out that we are from neighboring hometowns, and her hometown has actually asked her to be the Grand Marshal of this year's Christmas parade, so I knew I had to interview her. You know her from Hitch, ER, and many other things. She will also be starring in the upcoming Breaking Bad spinoff, Better Call Saul. It's my pleasure to welcome to the show actress Julie Ann Emery.
Hi, how you doing?
Hi. I'm good. How are you? Thank you so much for coming.
I'm good. You know, we might be neighboring hometowns, but we're from the same county.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah.
Sure. Sure.
Yeah, and we used to have the same accent, so.
We did. Mine's still there. It'll come back. It won't take
Yeah. Well,
long.
being from this part of the country, I imagine that there were a lot of people when you said, I want to become an actress. You know, it's not a practical occupation, and
Yeah.
not a lot of people from small towns, specifically small southern towns, set out to do that because there just aren't a lot of opportunities.
Well, I
So,
think if you do, you have to be willing to. It was hard for some of my family and friends when I started really losing my dialect, and
yeah.
you have to be willing to do that. But it's you don't just have to be willing to lose your dialect. If you're going to be an actor, you have to be willing to do whatever it takes to jump into whatever role you're playing. So,
Mhm.
for example, last year I worked on Fargo, the FX series, and we had to have a very specific Minnesota dialect. So that's not really any different to me than losing my natural dialect,
Right.
and learning to lose my natural dialect actually has helped me in acquiring other dialects.
Yeah.
It just makes your head start to work that way. But
Well,
yeah,
I can understand why it would be hard to try to lose this accent. It's a very specific,
it
differentiating
is.
accent, and
It
it's
is.
very
Well,
difficult to lose.
and I love where I'm from, and
Mm.
I mean I don't particularly want to lose it for my daily life, and
Right.
I do have a bit of it still in my daily life, even though I live somewhere between New York and LA,
Right.
uh, but it's not always valuable for a character, but I do get asked to use it more often than not. Hitch is a good example. That
Yeah, I
character
was going to ask you about that because you were Southern in that movie,
I
so.
was, and the when I auditioned for it, the director had just finished directing Sweet Home Alabama.
Hmm.
The character was not written Southern, and I did the audition, and later found out they didn't really know what they didn't know what they wanted to do with the character, and so I finished my audition and I started chatting with the director, and we started talking about Sweet Home Alabama, and Tennessee, and he asked me where I was from, and I left the room and went and put my coat on because it was in New York in the winter, and I was at the elevator waiting for the elevator, and his assistant came running out, and he was like, Julianne, wait, come back in, and he was like, could you do it again and be that cute Southern girl I was just talking to, and that's literally how Casey was born, was
Yeah.
in that moment, yeah.
It was on TV again the other night, and it's
Yeah,
on all the time. And I
yeah.
watched it again, and I started thinking while I was watching, I was like, well, I wonder if that was written into the character, or if that was something that they put in there after they met you.
It was.
So,
It was something they put in after they met me. But let's you and I be honest, that is not my natural dialect. Like when they want,
yeah,
I get asked for my dialect a lot in TV and movies, but
yeah,
it's like a salt and pepper of my natural dialect. It's not
right,
full dialect. Yeah.
yeah,
I'm actually dying to do something with my real, full Crossville, Tennessee dialect.
yeah. That
We'll
would
see.
be nice.
Yeah. Yeah. Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because and something else and I'm sure that you have watched a lot of movies, and I've watched a lot of movies with actors who try to play Southern, and it just doesn't come off.
Yeah. There's nothing worse than a bad Southern dialect, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Some of them are really bad. Some of them you can tell. I don't know if they just don't have the ear for it, but
Well, I think
they just don't.
this goes back to Fargo again. When the movie of Fargo came out, there was a bit of controversy about how far they went with the dialect. And I think that that dialect's very specific that way, and so is the Southern dialect. I think that there are different kinds of Southern dialects.
Hmm.
There's mountain dialect, which is, from Crossville, where I'm from, and there's the more genteel dialect where you drop your R's and everything, and
Right.
but I think people go wide with it very often, or caricaturish with it very often, instead of sort of grounding the character and letting the dialect come out of that and live out.
That's a very good description. That's a very good description. Characterish. Yeah.
Yeah, they just go very far into a caricature with it instead of really grounding the dialect in a real person.
It almost sounds like a parody of the Southern accent as opposed to what.
Or they always tell you not to judge your character. I think the same applies to a dialect. You can't judge the dialect. I mean, every person handles dialect differently, and even within the same family,
Yeah, that's true. I don't talk exactly the same as like my mom and dad or cousins and that sort of thing.
And certainly you don't talk the same as everyone in your town. So there's a difference that isn't always allowed for when people are starting to study dialect for a specific project. Yeah.
I was on a radio show one time and they asked me like, "Well, you're from Monterey. Where is your accent?" I'm like, I have an accent. Most people think that I have an accent, so
Yeah.
It's just it's just different people. Their dialects sound different, so
it's true. But and I do have to be able to turn mine on or off, but I get asked to use it more often than not, and I'm really happy about that. I'm really glad about that. And there's also things about my dialect, like I'm funnier if I can be Southern.
That's weird. Yeah, I've noticed that about myself. If I'm trying to be funny, my accent is thicker. So, and if
because that's my understanding of, I don't know, that coping mechanism or humor. That's my understanding of humor, and that's how I do it. But so I like it. I don't dislike my dialect at all. But But if I want to make a living, I have to be able
to come in and out of it, obviously. Yeah. So how did you decide to just set about becoming an actress? Like I said, there's not a lot of opportunities in.
Well, there is opportunity in Crossville. I started doing plays at the Cumberland County Playhouse. Actually, when I was in school, the high school did not have enough money for a drama teacher, and the Playhouse had a grant and part of that grant was educational, was to supply someone from their staff to be the drama teacher at the high school.
Yeah.
So, they found me singing in the school choir and asked me to try out for the play, and then I did, and then Mel Michelle was the name of that drama teacher, and she took me to my first audition at the Cumberland County Playhouse, and I started doing plays there when I could, and that place really, I mean, I never would have even considered pursuing acting, certainly. I think I was probably on a music track of some kind.
Yeah.
But acting was not even, I don't know, in the realm of what I was thinking of. But I'll be forever grateful to them for that.
Yeah. Well, and it's really good that they could do that, because Crossville's a small town. Monterey's smaller than Crossville is, and there's not a lot of money put into the arts.
No, and when I was growing up, the Cumberland County Playhouse was the only theater for like 100 miles. I mean, people come from 3-4 towns over to see a play at the Playhouse, and I think even if you're not going into the arts, it's such a special thing to be able to have in like rural Tennessee, like outside of a big city. I think it's really great and important, and obviously changed my life. But it changes anybody's life. I mean, if you've got a kid who's interested in doing plays, whether they're going to do that for their life or not, it teaches you to work as a group, and it teaches you to succeed as a group instead of as a single person. And it teaches you what it is to pull together at the last minute and make something happen, and how to deal with stress, and how to get in front of people and present, and
think on your feet.
Think on your feet. Think outside the box. Learn some creative thinking, which is, one of my brothers is very successful in business because he thinks outside the box, and he through the Playhouse just like I did. So it's, it's
good to have things like that, programs like that in small towns, because there's talent everywhere, obviously. So
yes,
there needs to be opportunity. There actually needs to be more opportunity, I think, for the smaller towns to let kids.
Agreed, and I think that taking the arts out of public schools is a big problem and a big
Yeah.
issue, and I'm not sure, how to what to do about it except vote that way. Vote for
Yeah.
somebody who you think is going to put it back, because it does affect more than just the arts themselves. I mean, it
Oh,
makes
definitely. There's been so
jobs.
many studies on that.
Yeah, yeah. But yeah, I was lucky. I was lucky that the Playhouse was in my town.
Was that when you were in Greece?
Yeah, that was the high school production of Grease.
Okay.
And that's when I decided I wanted to be an actor. That was I played. I was very good when I was in school. I was definitely a good girl, and the drama teacher cast me as Rizzo instead of Sandy, and
Totally not your personality.
I was Sandy walking around. Like, I didn't know how to hold a cigarette. I didn't know how even to hold, there's a scene where they're drinking straight out of a wine bottle, no idea what to do with it. So that was the first time I really stepped into somebody else's shoes and
Hmm.
walked around in them. And I remember the moment. There was a moment as Rizzo in front of our first audience that I knew that I was someone else, and I knew that the audience was on the ride with me, and that was it for me. I was hooked from there on out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So do you think that if you had been asked to play Sandy or somebody closer to your personality, do you think you would have fallen as deeply in love with acting as you did?
I don't think I would have fallen in love with it so quickly.
Mm.
I think I would have liked it, but I don't think I would have been hooked so quickly and so deeply. And
Hmm.
I don't think I would have approached my acting career the same way. I'm an odd duck in Hollywood. I tend not to get very pigeonholed. I tend to play a fairly wide range of roles on TV,
Yeah.
and a lot of people get to do that. And I think that started with Rizzo in Grease.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
you do play a wide range of roles. I've watched things before and I'm like, is is that Julie Ann Emery? And because you get so lost in that character, you're so talented with it. So,
That's
you're not always recognizable. So
well,
that's a good
I
thing.
had an agent once tell me that was a bad thing, and they're probably right.
I think
But
it's a good thing because I mean,
it's what I do, and I it's what I'm interested in, and it's what I like,
yeah,
and I'm lucky that way. That's you're not supposed to be allowed to do that. You're not supposed to be allowed to play a wide range of things when you're on television or in films, and so I've gotten lucky to kind of escape the pigeonhole.
yeah. Well, that's good.
Yeah.
Well, you've acted in a variety of mediums: TV, film, on stage, web series. Is
Yeah.
there a particular area that you like to work in more?
I think the way I approach my work is probably best on camera, but in terms of what I like good writing.
Mm,
I love a character with opposites. I love an interesting story, an interesting character. Anything that's a good script, I'm likely to run down.
mm,
Sometimes that's a good thing with my agents, and sometimes it's not. But I will follow the writing into whatever medium it leads. Yeah,
yeah.
for
Well,
sure.
yeah, the writing makes everything. You can find something of poor quality on television and find something of really great quality on the web. So,
Yeah,
like you said, it's all about
also
the writing.
there are a lot of crappy movies out there, and there's some really brilliant television. So you
Right.
can't. I don't think we're living in a world anymore where uh, quality means a specific genre.
Right.
I think actors started, branching out quicker than writers did, but writers have started following, whatever medium was willing to tell their story. So,
Right.
yeah.
Well, you mentioned Fargo earlier, and I've read some conflicting information about that. Is it coming back in 2015?
It is coming back. I don't know what the air date is. It is coming back, but it will be with a fully new cast.
Yeah,
So,
that's.
yeah, so our season was a standalone story, and then now they're going back in time to 1979. And
Okay.
it'll be a whole new story with all new characters and all new actors.
Okay. Yeah, I
Yeah.
wondered about that, if they were gonna, how they were gonna do
Yeah,
that.
I mean, I
So,
know, Fargo was such an amazing set to work on and such an
yeah.
amazing group of creatives to be with that, and Noah Hawley was so brilliant and wrote all of it himself.
Mm.
I know that we're all sad not to be moving forward with it, but I just feel so fortunate. I feel like it was such a magical moment in time
Yeah.
to be on that set with that cast and everybody working that hard, and it was really, really a lovely thing to be part of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you recurred, and I have to mention this, you recurred on the ER for a couple of years.
I did. That was my first big
such
job.
an iconic show.
Yeah, that was my first job on TV.
Yeah.
And
so what was it like working on that show? Because I imagine it was very fast-paced.
It was very fast-paced. It was my very first job on television.
Mm-hmm.
And my first day of shooting, my first episode, my character, I played a paramedic on the show, but in the first episode, my character hooked up with like the bad boy on the show, and then we got caught together in my ambulance, and he got fired. It was like it was Eric Palladino's exit from the show.
Yeah.
And my very first day of shooting, the very first scene up, they used to do all of these big Steadicam shots on ER. We did a 6.5-page Steadicam shot, which means you do 6.5 pages of shooting while the camera walks around the ER.
Mm-hmm.
And my character came in to the very end of it, and you did it all as one big long take. So we rehearsed it all morning, and then my character came in at the end riding on top of a gurney, pumping a guy's heart and saying all of this medical jargon. And whenever someone messed up during the 6 pages, we would have to go back to the top and start all over again. And I was so terrified all day long that I was going to screw up the best take.
Yeah,
and
really?
I didn't, but I was sweating it. That was I don't think it's ever been as high pressure as that in terms of getting it right then on the day.
Yeah. I would be afraid I would fall off the gurney or something, start saying my lines and then, like, I don't know, lose balance or something.
At some point, there's so much to worry about that you just stop. At some point, like, well, here we go. Yeah, but
instead of having a meltdown.
Yeah, I mean, ER was great because it was such an iconic show, and I was on it the season that Don Cheadle was on it, and there's some really amazing. It was Anthony Anderson's last season, and there's some really amazing actors, and it was a pretty amazing place to get baptized into the world of television.
I would imagine, I mean, because
and it was still the #1 show on television at the time, and then when they asked me to recur on the show, I recurred enough to quit my waitressing job, and it was good. I really appreciated my time there.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure you learned a lot from that experience because, like you said, it was an iconic show. I mean, it was ran for what, like 10 or 11 years or something.
It did. I used to, every time I got my script, because I was always doing something, like pumping oxygen or doing chest compressions while I was saying all this stuff. So I used to go. Whenever I would get my script, I would wash dishes and say my lines, or I would like walk around the house and do other stuff while I tried to learn whatever medical jargon I had going on. I have a cousin who is in Knoxville who's a doctor. I used to always email him. I'm like, what is this?
Yeah, that's really good, though, that you could do that because...
Yeah. It was great.
I can imagine all that medical jargon would be very difficult to memorize because, not just memorize, but pronouncing the words and making sure you're using them in the right context. And
then, there's an on-set doctor who busts you if you don't squeeze the oxygen bag every 3 seconds. So, I mean... So what to think about. It was intense. It was a really intense job. But again, nothing has really quite felt that intense since then. So, so it was a great baptism for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you recently announced, and I know you can't talk about it a lot, but that you're going to be joining Better Call Saul, the Breaking Bad spinoff. So, what can you tell me about that?
I can tell you I'm in it officially. I'm not allowed to talk about the show itself. They announced Jeremy Shamus, who's a really quite wonderful Tony-nominated actor, plays my husband.
Mm-hmm.
Bob Odenkirk, the lead of it, was also in Fargo, and Bob and I spent quite a bit of time together on Fargo. So it was really, really beautiful and lovely to be with him again, and he made it such a welcome and warm place for me to be, and we finished shooting for the season already.
Yeah.
And Vince Gilligan is from Virginia and has the dialect of my people, and I love that. And he's I would say more brilliant than his reputation is.
Yeah.
In the business, actors really want to work with him, and he's really he's wonderful and welcoming and just brilliant and always looking to make it better all day long. And I had a really lucky year that way. To go from Fargo to Better Call Saul was creatively, that's a great year, you know. I mean, I just was, and the crew is all the crew from Breaking Bad, and they know each other and like each other and know how to work together, and it just was a really beautiful experience. I got very challenged on that set. My character was very challenging for me.
Yeah.
Scary sometimes to play. I wasn't sure if I was going to pull it off. I'm still not quite sure I pulled it off, but hopefully I did. But it was really a dream gig. It is a dream gig. I keep saying was because we're not shooting. But it is a dream gig. It's great. Yeah, it's really wonderful.
And we can say that it premieres in February, right?
Yeah, we have a date. We're doing a 2-part premiere February 8th and 9th. I think we premiere right after the mid-season premiere of Walking Dead. We're coming on, and then we'll move to our night on Monday nights. Yeah, but
I'm excited to see that. I can't wait.
Yeah, it's a great show. I mean, it's really terrific, and the tone is a little more fun, a little. Well, I guess I can't totally say that. It gets dark, but it's a little lighter than Breaking Bad.
Yeah.
I think it'll appeal to a wider audience, but it's really wonderful. And Peter Gould is the other showrunner on it, and he's wonderful. And it was really a terrific place to be, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I look forward to seeing that. Well, you recently made your stage directorial debut.
I did.
With a play called The Wonder with your husband, Kevin Early.
Yes.
So, and he won an award earlier this week, right?
We were part of a festival on Theater Row here in New York, and we won the Best of Festival award for Best Production.
That's awesome.
And yeah, thank you. The web series that I did, I wrote and directed, and the woman who wrote and starred in The Wonder was in my web series, and so she asked me to direct. And my husband came along with me because he's a Broadway guy and knows a lot more about stage than I do. And it was a really wonderful experience. It was great. I was nervous about it because it's not so much my wheelhouse anymore.
Yeah.
But it's such a moving play. It's so well written. I'm glad we were able to do it, even just a tiny amount of justice. And we have some meetings set up, so I have great hopes that we'll be able to sit down in the theater somewhere soon, just for a nice long run. But
So would you like to do more of that, the stage directing?
I didn't think I was interested in pursuing stage directing specifically. I am definitely pursuing directing until The Wonder, and now I do. And it was the first time my husband and I collaborated as co-directors. He was my producer on the web series, so I sort of had to answer to him. And he's been an actor when I've directed him, but we've never been co-directors for, and we really loved it. We really had a very sort of, one of our producers said we had like a hive mind. We very much did. We had a very sort of symbiotic relationship through it. It was nice.
Yeah. Well, you started out your careers together too, is that correct?
We went to theater school together.
Yeah.
And we met in college, and then we went up through all of our early career together doing theater in Chicago, and then we moved to New York, and we were both doing theater here, and then I sort of transitioned to on-camera stuff. And Kevin did the national tour he did the Broadway production of Les Mis, and then went on tour as well to play Enjolras, and they sat down in LA for 3 months, and that's what moved us to LA.
Yeah.
Where I got ER. So yeah, we travel a lot. We have an interesting life, but it was really nice to collaborate with him that way. I hope we get to do it again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you mentioned your web series, Then We Got Help.
Yes.
How did you come up with the idea for this show?
So Then We Got Help is for couples who need therapy but can't afford it. They need couples counseling, so they form a group. So it's group therapy without a therapist. And they get together once a week and sort of proceed to mostly screw each other up. And almost always once an episode, somebody has some kind of breakthrough. But it was literally born out of circumstance of the moment. Like, I knew I wanted to shoot something. I knew I wanted to write something just to see if I could. we were living in New York, and location shooting is insanely expensive in New York. So we had a very large living room, and a fairly big apartment as far as New York apartments go at the time. So I wanted to write something I could shoot in my living room. And my husband and I have been together since college, so we know all manner of couples. And I knew if I was going to shoot in my living room, I had to write something. It was going to be about the actors and their performances, which the show is. It's mostly people sitting around in chairs in a living room, even though it doesn't seem that way all the time. My actors are so good. But we knew great actors, and I had a big living room. So I set about to write things for my brilliant actor pals, and that we get out of the living room every now and then, but it mostly takes place in my apartment. My mama actually flew up every shoot day. She missed one shoot day the entire 2 seasons that we were shooting. She would fly up from Crossville, and she cooked for us all day long. She was my craft services and my catering. She treated everybody like they were her kids.
Right.
She was amazing. She would come up, and I would take her to Costco, and then we would go like to Trader Joe's, and we'd get a bunch of groceries, and she would just cook all day. Before our first shoot day, she said, "How many people tomorrow?" And I said, a total like 18 tomorrow, but they won't all be here at the same time. And she was like, "Oh yeah, just like Christmas."
Yeah.
And so she cooked every shoot day. She cooked all day long like it was Christmas. And
Right.
she did it in my apartment between cut and action again. Like she was in my kitchen. She couldn't make noise and stuff during the
I don't know how she cooked that much in that amount of time while you were...
She's a little magician. I don't know how we would get to the end of the shoot day, and I'd walk in the kitchen, and it would be clean. Like, so not only did she cook all day, but somehow she did all the dishes and put everything away. It was one of the most amazing things I've ever seen. It was
in between takes. I don't know how she did that.
She did it all day long in between takes. I don't know how she did it either. It was all by herself too. It was incredible, but it was also really nice to have her be part of that. You know, that was the first thing I ever wrote by myself. It was the first thing I ever directed. My husband and I produced. It was a really sort of Herculean undertaking, and it was nice to have my mama there, you know.
Yeah, I know.
I was like, "Mama, I need you." She's like, "Okay," you know. She just up.
I'm assuming that she cooked like Southern food and.
She did. I mean, she made all of her specialties, you know,
right.
and then she learned what everybody liked, and she would, you know, she'd always come out with a pan of brownies about 10 o'clock at night. You know, I mean, she just learned what everybody wanted and liked, and she just, I will never know how she did it. But my cast worked for free. They showed up for the food. They will all tell you that they showed up for the food.
Yeah.
I mean, all of them. They're like, "I'm here for the food." Yeah, I mean, and they like their characters in the show.
Right. And, you know, people from the South, that's what we do. We cook a lot. And if we have people over, then, you know, you have to cook something. So
I know. I have a dream of shooting a little movie in Crossville, and my mom is
that would be so nice.
She's doing the food. So, yeah, so I hope we get to continue that. But it was a really gorgeous thing to be able to have her there.
Yeah, I saw some of the behind-the-scenes footage, and you guys used, like, handheld cameras.
No, we didn't have any money. So the second season we were fan-funded, but the first season my husband and I funded it ourselves, and we didn't have any money for it. And when we were breaking down our budget, this whole thing was also born out of need. I was like, we can't afford to go buy a $7,000 camera. That's more than our entire budget. So, so I bought $150 camcorders from Best Buy. I bought 3 of them, and you see it in the opening credits for the show.
Right.
And decided that my character was videoing the meetings home video style, like as an amateur documentarian. And I was so worried about that when we first started, and I wound up really loving the look of it. When we went to several festivals, and whenever we, you know, introduced the whatever episodes we were showing at whatever festival, I always would tell people we're shot home video style. Yeah. And it wound up sort of having its own charm to it because of that. I kind of love it now. But I never would have done that had we had a bigger budget. I never sort of stumbled into that.
Well, I think using the handheld cameras, I think that sort of fit with the whole tone of the show.
Well,
So I think that it worked.
the cameras. I mean,
Yeah.
I mean, everything. Every time we sort of came up against something we couldn't afford or couldn't figure out, I would sort of. That's the beauty of writing it yourself, is I would rewrite to sort of change the tone to sort of fit things, and it really all evolved the way it was supposed to. It was a nice exercise in trust for sure.
Yeah.
But
So do
yeah,
you think so do you think that you'll do more web series now, or?
Yeah, the web world has changed quite a bit since when we started, then we got help. There weren't a ton of web series out, and we were able to get some attention, and we won some awards. But I think the style of our show really worked at the time on the web, but now, you know, Warner Brothers is producing digital projects for the CW. So I think the demand production wise is higher on the web. So I would love to do another web series, but I need more money to be able to do it, I think. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
well, frankly, we could have continued to do Then We Got Help, but I didn't want everybody working for free.
Right.
So and I just didn't want to. My actors were willing to come back. We had people willing to contribute money, but it wasn't enough money to pay everybody, and I wanted to pay everybody something. I didn't want to continue with that business model.
Yeah.
So, I want to employ people. So yes, if I can employ people on the web, I'll do it there. I'm writing a pilot for a production company in LA right now for television. If I can do it there, I'll do it there.
Yeah.
If it's a movie that I pull $30,000 together to shoot somewhere, I'll do it there. But yeah, I'm definitely hooked on the filmmaking, and I think I probably will pursue it wherever I'm allowed to.
Yeah.
Women are allowed to direct on the web more than they are in the traditional media world.
Yeah, I noticed that. Yeah.
Yeah, so I would like to see that change. But if it's on the web, that's totally fine with me. I love the digital world.
Yeah.
It's not so much, when we started, Then We Got Help, the digital world was kind of the Wild West still.
Yeah.
Nobody really knew what it was. Nobody knew what was possible. Our episodes are 10 to 13 minutes long. Everyone told us nobody would watch. Everyone told us that no one would watch more than 3 minutes. And we maintained, because we can track our analytics, so we maintained our audience. 90% of our audience stuck with our show right up to the moment that the closing credits start.
Right.
Every
Yeah.
episode. So they were wrong, I mean,
Yeah.
so that was, so it's I'm totally open to the web, but if I get to write and direct something, I'll do it wherever they'll let me, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you're right about that with the web. People would try to do things on the web for a long time, and it was like, that's a dead end. You're not gonna get anywhere. But now it's just kind of exploded, and everyone's doing a web series, and so hopefully they'll figure out a way to kind of funnel more money into that.
Yeah, I mean, it's still not fully monetized in the right way. You can monetize, like, if you make a deal with Hulu or CW Seed or, a production company, but all the studios are starting to do digital projects, and I think that's good. I think it's good for the web world to kind of grow up a little bit. But, and again, I didn't get on the internet because I wanted to make a lot of money. I still don't require to make a lot of money, but I do want to pay my people something. I want them to be able to pay their rent. Yeah.
Because if they're putting their time in there, then you want them to be able to get something for the time that they've put in.
Right.
So.
Right. I mean, a plumber goes to school to be a plumber and gets paid for it, and sometimes even really amazing actors are sort of expected to work for free, and everybody does it because the arts are run by passion, and and you want to do your work, and you want to do it as fully as you can. But I do firmly believe in people making some kind of living wage and having health insurance and, people to live. It's not, you can't, I need my work to live, but I can't eat it. I can't, I have to be able to make something on it. Yeah. I know. Yeah, I'm always looking for my next big project so I can go away and direct something again. So I can balance it out. But yeah.
Go ahead.
No, sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to ask you about the tape room.
How
you became involved in that.
So I am Marcia DeBonis and Amy Christopher. Marcia used to cast at Fox. I know at Fox and at NBC here in New York. And Amy Christopher was the casting director at Fox for almost 10 years here in New York. And obviously I knew both of them because I would go in for them for auditions and stuff. And Marcia I played softball with Marcia. She was a friend. They opened the tape room, I guess maybe 8 months ago, because what they love to do is work with actors. And so they just decided to try to find something where they could just work with actors all day and not have to deal with the rest of it. And not that they're not both still casting, they are, but they wanted something else. And I put myself on tape in New York for Better Call Saul from the tape room and booked it. And I was so excited about that, and it's such a great resource for actors, and it's not like doing an audition there. It's like you get to go in and do your work for a while. It's so wonderful. And Amy and Marcia are both still working casting directors, and I didn't want to see the tape room disappear when they both got their next gigs. So another actress here in town, Kelly Overby, who's also a writer, and I both decided to become partners. And we partnered up and at the tape room so that we can, hopefully between the four of us, we can keep it going, even though we're all going off to do different gigs at different times. But it's such a great space and such a great resource for actors. It's like a taping and coaching service. Yeah. And I actually just taught a workshop there about an on-camera technique workshop about transitioning from theater to camera, and it's I like being able to give back to actors just starting out. You know, like I like being able to do more for someone who just graduated from the conservatory I went to than just a cup of coffee. You know, I mean, I get reach outs all the time. Can you have coffee with me? Can you give me some advice? And it just seems not enough. You know, so I like being part of a place that can give some real help to actors trying to break through or cross over or do whatever, you know, get their next job, get their next gig. It's a great place. It's a nice place.
Yeah, that's a good thing because, I mean, it is a tough business, and, you know, not everyone knows exactly how to navigate that field, so it's good that you're doing that.
In the middle of it, and everybody's sort of hoping for someone to reach back and help them kind of navigate it. And frankly, even we have wildly experienced actors. Like one of our testimonials is, oh my God, I've just gone up on her name. She's an American Horror Story. Sarah
Paulson.
Paulson, thank you. Sarah Paulson, Michael Emerson, Kate Burton. All of these like Emmy-winning actors have been into the tape room to tape an audition. So it's good for them too. I mean, it's good for me. I mean, I go on a ton of auditions, but the tape room doesn't feel like an audition. It feels like doing the work for a little while. It feels like you actually get to sort of walk around with the character for a while and put it on tape and send it off and see if that's what, you know, they're looking for. But it's just such a nice resource. I didn't want to see it disappear. I wanted to see it stick around. Yeah.
Well, I like that you're doing that. So that's good.
Thank you. Yeah.
So what happened with Drifter, the show that you were trying to get off the ground for a while?
Yeah, I mean, you know, Drifter just didn't. It drifted. You know, it's Drifter was going to be a digital project, and particularly with digital projects, it was a sci-fi series and needed a certain amount of money, and it just didn't quite find its place. So you know, didn't quite. I mean, the technical requirements of it required a certain amount of money, and it just didn't quite go. There'll be something that goes in that way. We were close.
It seemed interesting, so I was kind of upset that it didn't.
I was too. I was really sad, but that's. I mean, it happens all the time. I mean, it happens on television, and now it's starting to happen on the web. I mean, it's interesting to see how many rules the digital world broke, and yet how much the business is the business, no matter what platform you're on.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, every year there are really brilliant pilots made that don't make it to air, and brilliant shows that do make it to air that get canceled, and because they don't quite find their audience, and Drifter just didn't quite find its home, you know, it just didn't quite find its place. Yeah.
Wasn't meant to be at that time, obviously.
Not meant to be at that time. I mean, maybe it'll come back around at some point. But yeah.
So we talked about Hitch a little bit earlier.
Uh-huh.
That's probably what most people know you from is Hitch as
Yeah.
Casey.
Yeah.
So have you heard that they're making a series out of that?
Yeah, I have. I got to be honest with you. Every couple of years, there's a Hitch series floating around. So, I mean, I think it's great that they're making announcements and everything, but
Right.
that's
If it's going to actually turn into
I don't know if
anything.
it'll actually happen. Yeah,
Yeah.
and I don't know. That it seems like this version of it, they're trying to set up around some kind of dating service.
Yeah.
Uh, from what I've read, I know nothing about
Yeah.
what's in the
Yeah,
paper.
I've read very little about it, and as a matter of
Yeah,
fact, I
but it
looked it
seems
up on
like
the.
this is more like a dating service instead of so much him. And
Yeah.
so I don't know. I have no idea what's happening with that. I
Yeah.
love that I'm part of Hitch. I would love to be part of any version of Hitch,
Right.
but that again, it feels like it's not actually Hitch. Maybe it is. I don't know,
Yeah.
but we'll see. We'll see if it finds its way.
Yeah.
They've been trying to do it for a long, long time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I read a little bit about it, and then I looked it up again because so many shows right now are getting just cut before they ever air.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
looked it up again to make sure that it was still in the works before I actually said something to you about
Yeah,
it.
it works. They haven't made a pilot yet, even. So
Yeah.
it's just very early phase. Yeah,
Right. Well, that was your big screen debut.
it was. Yeah.
So, I mean, that's a big screen debut of Will Smith,
You
Eva
know,
Mendes.
I was in a movie theater. One of my brothers lived in New York at the time, and we went to a movie over Christmas, the December before Hitch came out in February. And the first trailer of it came up, and I was actually on the trailer, and I stopped breathing. I was like, I'm so large. It was
Right.
just so bizarre to just see it blown up. I don't know, to that
Yeah.
degree. Yeah,
For real, I would imagine.
I got really lucky with Hitch. I mean, I
Yeah.
landed in a good one for sure.
Right. Yeah. So what was that experience like? Because, I mean, I can imagine it being overwhelming and kind of
It was,
intimidating.
in some ways it was because it was a gigantic crew. It was, a lot of, it was the biggest budget thing still to this day I've ever been part of.
Yeah.
And we sort of rolled through New York like a big beast. It's just so many trailers and trucks and people, and that aspect of it was intimidating, and it was for Sony, and I'd never worked, I'd never done a movie for a studio before. I'd done
Yeah.
TV, and that was intimidating, but the cast was incredibly nice. Eva was so lovely, and we became really nice pals. Amber Valletta was lovely. Will spent all day entertaining everybody, entertaining the crew, you know, and he's one of those guys that treats the PAs the same as he treats the
Yeah.
producers, which I like.
Yeah.
Kevin James, it was his first big movie. He was on King of Queens, but it was his first big
Right.
movie, and he kept looking at me. He's like, "You were the TV people," because we were both on like series at the time,
Yeah.
and um, yeah, it was probably one of the nicest casts still to this day I've ever worked with. Just
Yeah.
really welcoming and warm, and I think I got very, very lucky in that regard with it.
Yeah.
But
And it's on TV all the time, like I said earlier. It's
yeah, it really is. Thank God for
yeah.
Hitch. Yeah, but it was nice. I mean, it was into. I mean, you know, Sony paid a lot of attention. They cut my hair in stages for that so that they could get it approved by Sony. That was really all that stuff was really intimidating to me.
Right.
But the actuality of getting through the scenes themselves, because the cast was so nice and so sort of bonded together, it was really great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So is it true that you got into a rice pudding fight with Eva Mendes on set?
I totally did. But you know what nobody ever says is that the director totally started it. Andy Tennant totally started that. Andy totally started it.
Oh,
We were like toward the, we ate rice pudding for a full day. We
yeah.
were in that rice pudding shop for the whole day. And when we started the day, we were like, oh my God, this is delicious. And they even had a sugar-free one that I could eat. And like, we were really chowing down. And by the end of the day, we were both so sick. And it was one of the last takes. And Andy Tennant flicked some rice pudding and Eva thought it was me. And then we totally got in a rice pudding fight. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I bet that was a lot of fun, though. So
Good. It was, except
yeah,
and getting it out of your hair and stuff. But yeah, but it was good. But I was sick. I was sick to my stomach for a couple of days after that.
yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, cut to 9 years later, and your hometown of Crossville, Tennessee, has asked you to be the Grand Marshal of the Christmas Parade.
Aw.
So, how did this come about, first of all?
They just reached out. I mean, Terry Ashburn reached out, actually, who was my junior high school band teacher. He taught me to play the trombone. And he's on the committee this year, and they reached out, and it fit into my schedule, and I was able to do it. It's not always true that I'm able to come back, but it just worked out nicely. I'm really pleased to be able to come. Anything that I can ever do for Crossville or Cumberland County Playhouse or my hometown, or I'm all game if I can do it.
Yeah. So what are your responsibilities? I hear all the time about grand marshals, but I don't really know what they have to do.
I don't really have that many responsibilities. To be honest.
That's probably good, though.
Yeah, I can tell you what I know. I'll ride in a car at the front of the parade, and I talk to the paper and stuff, and I think it's mostly a publicity thing for them. But I get to ride in the car and wave, and I'm hoping my little niece and nephew will get to come in the car with me. I think
that would be good.
Yeah, and I know. Let's see. What can I tell you about the parade? We start at the high school. Oh, there's more than one high school in Crossville now. That's CCHS. Yeah.
Oh.
And there used to be only the one, only CCHS when I was growing up. So we're starting my alma mater at CCHS, and we go down Stanley Street to Main Street, and we end at Woodmere Mall. And we starts around 4:30. Take probably 45 minutes to an hour. There's going to be some floats. I know the Cumberland County Playhouse is going to have a float. I'm hoping to stop by and see that before we get started. And I think it'll be really fun.
Yeah.
We'll be running around with his iPhone videoing things.
Right. Yeah. Put it on Instagram and stuff. So
yeah, that will absolutely be happening. He will absolutely. Yeah.
So does it kind of feel like you've come full circle now that you're doing this?
I don't know. I think, when I was a kid, a woman from General Hospital was our grand marshal because her parents were living in Crossville.
Yeah.
And I just remember thinking, and I was little at the time, but I remember thinking, it just opened up my world in a way that had not happened prior. I was like, I think sometimes when you grow up on top of that plateau, you forget that you can do whatever you want. You can stay in Crossville, you can leave and come back. It opened up my idea about what the world was and what was possible in a big way for me. So anytime I go back, like if I have a chance to go talk to the high school, I do. If I have a chance to go do whatever, I think it's easy to feel like you're in a fishbowl a little bit sometimes, no matter where you are. And I will never forget her being the grand marshal of the parade. And I remember me thinking, oh wow, I don't know, it just opened up possibility for me in a way that I thought of before. So
and now it's you. So
I hope so. I mean, that seems like a weird thing to say, but I hope that
Yeah. You don't know who you're going to be inspiring by doing this. Someone may be watching you in the same way. So
I guess. I mean, and I'm proud of my dialect. I'm proud of my hometown. I'm proud of where I'm from. I miss the mountains terribly. I miss getting on a horse and riding around the beautiful Tennessee mountains. And anything I can do to come back and help out in any way, I always will.
Yeah.
So I'm real pleased to be able to do it.
So did you ever think, like, either from the moment that you stepped out on stage to do Grease, or watching this other person and as Grand Marshal of the Christmas Parade, did you ever think that your life and career would take you where it has?
No, I never thought of my career. I never thought of it like that. I thought I played Rizzo in Grease, and I got hooked on being inside someone else's shoes, on looking at the world with a different set of eyes. I got hooked on that, and that's still the terms I think in now. You know, we shot Hitch, and I was just worried about playing Casey all day, and then suddenly we're at, sorry, that's my radiator. I don't know if you heard that or not.
Yeah, I did. I was like, what is that?
But I didn't think of that. The red carpet at that first Hitch premiere was overwhelming and completely surreal, and still doesn't really seem like what I do or part of my life. Like I don't think of it. I don't think of it that way. I mean that part of it's great. It's really lovely and wonderful to be recognized in any sense. But for me it's more about, I don't know, playing a part that I didn't know if I could pull off on Better Call Saul. You know, I mean, for me, I tend to be dorky like that. I tend to not think of it in those terms until suddenly I'm like, oh crap, I need a dress. You know, but I don't know, the Grand Marshal thing feels different because it's my hometown. So I am really proud of that, for sure.
Yeah.
Nice.
Well,
I never thought that would be me in that car. Like, I never thought when I saw the woman from General Hospital, I was like, I'm going to be her. I did not think of it in those terms. It just, I don't know, it just made me think differently. So if I can make anyone think differently about what they're doing, that's okay with me. Yeah.
Well, on that note, what advice would you give to young actors and actresses in small towns, not just in the South, but all across the country, if they're looking to get into the entertainment business?
Study, 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 study. It's great if you're really good looking and can get a gig when you're in your 20s, and it'll go away real quick. I went to a theater conservatory. I highly recommend training. I did not stop my training when I got out of school. I continued to take classes. That's why I was able to cross over into film and television, because I was continually taking on-camera classes and build a toolbox to do what you do and put as many tools in it as you can. Continue to study. I still continue to study. Continue to stretch your work. The business will do with you whatever it's going to do with you. You know, some people it'll make famous. Some people will make a living. I make a living, and every now and then I walk a red carpet. That's fine with me. I get to play a gazillion different roles, and that's great. The business is going to do what it's going to do. So for you, study, study, study. Try to know who you are as an artist, and try as hard as you can to be true to that. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's really good. Well, that's pretty much all of my questions. Do you have anything that you would like to add, or?
No, just say a big hi to my hometown for me. Wave to the jet at CZHS the next time you're over there.
Yeah. Well, you know, I get to Crossville every now and then, so you know, I'm right between Crossville and Cookeville, so.
Nice. And you know, I'm sure when I'm in town for the parade, I'll be stopping off at Gondolas for a pizza.
Right. Well, you have to stop at Gondola for a pizza.
As I always do. And so
nobody knows, you know, what that is unless you're like living in the South. So, but yeah, you have to do that.
I know for sure, no question.
Yeah. Oh, the Christmas parade. I'm sorry, what?
Thank you for having me.
Oh, well, thank you for coming. Absolutely. I mean, I know that I took up more than 30 minutes of your time, and that I didn't mean to, so we went over. So the Christmas parade is December 13th.
It is.
In Crossville, Tennessee, at 4:30, and that is Central Time.
Yes.
Better Call Saul, we can say that it premieres, the 2-night premiere.
Yes.
Sunday, February 8th, and Monday, February 9th at 10/9 Central. So, okay, well, that about wraps it up. Just stay on the line for a second. I'm going to end the broadcast, but stay on the line for just a second. You don't have to do anything. Just don't press any buttons.
Okay.
Okay, so I want to thank Julie Ann Emery for being here tonight, and yeah, keep an eye out for Better Call Saul, and if you're in Tennessee, if you're in the Crossville area, be sure to go to the Christmas parade on December 13th. So, all right, good night, everyone.